With the reveal of Phantom Rage, I thought it would be the perfect opportunity to start my new series, Archetype Guide, where I'm going through archetypes that I like and just covering them up in the best of my abilities, as the timeline shows on screen. And what's best to start with one of my favorites, Raidraptors. Now, one thing should mention, this is not going to be an archetype archive, so do not expect me to cover every single one of the cards, because there really literally no point, because there are a lot of cards I would consider trash, and they're just not really interesting or helping you achieve your goal. With that being said, before we'll jump into the video, I'm going to remind you that as a subscriber a day, keep the depression going away. So if you want to join the family, help my channel, and maybe get a video immediately delivered to your doorstep every single time that I post, well, you're more than welcome to join. As well as I'm going to say, this is the number of subs and days left for my 2000 giveaway challenge to make the giveaway even bigger. And if you want to support other smaller yugitubers, you're more than welcome to support them in the card's description down below, as well as the second channel that I'm in, the Coalition of Scrubs. With that out of the way, let's get back into the video. So, what are the Raidraptors? Well, they're a bunch of Dark-Winged Beast Xyz related archetype with the gimmick of, rank up. They're pretty much the most successful archetype to go around with rank up. They're supposed to be kind of an OTK deck, so to speak, or just going second by Konami standard, but with OCG support / wise tricks, they also have the ability to go first quite nicely. And lastly, they're using their hand as their main source of play, just like Crusadia and Blackwing, so they're mostly depending on that and free special summoning from the hand, just like a bunch of birds just come into the field, or whatever that analogy is, you know what I mean. Regardless, they're just pretty much using their hand as their main source of play, and they do have a little bit more of graveyard synergy with OCG support, but mostly they're like that. As for their aesthetic, well, they're pretty much supposed to be birds of prey that just became smart and just, joined to one army, and they're controlled by this guy in the ArcV anime, which is one of the only good things in the ArcV anime. But regardless, that's pretty much it for that, and let's jump right into the good cards, in my opinion, that you can use in the archetype. So let's get started with the monsters, and we'll start with the first monster to be ever released for the Raidraptor archetype, and that is Raidraptor Vanishing Lanius. Now, Raidraptor Vanishing Lanius is just a soft once per turn, allow you to special summon another Raidraptor monster from your hand, including itself. So you can just pretty much swarm with this guy. Pretty short, pretty straightforward, and because of that, this is one of the best cards in the archetype, at least with the old TCG support, or, before the new Phantom Rage support, up to this day. Nothing more to say about that one. Secondly, we have Raidraptor Tribute Lanius, which is... the second effect doesn't really matter, but mostly what you care about is during the main phase, you can just Foolish Burial any Raidraptor card you want. Well, back in the day, there only was one target, which is Tribute Lanius' favorite target, Mimicry Lanius, but today you can also Foolish Burial spells and traps with the OCG support, which we'll get to that as well. But it's pretty much just a good normal summon to just Foolish Burial your Mimicry Lanius, which is the next monster online, which his effect is, the first one is during the main phase you can increase all Raidraptor monsters by 1 level, which doesn't really comes up that much, but the effect that you do care about is the effect in the graveyard that during the main phase it was sent to the graveyard, or during the turn it was sent to the graveyard, you're allowed to banish it and search a Raidraptor card. And I should mention this up. This is only during the main phase it was sent to the graveyard. Not before, not later, not after. It's only during this turn. So a lot of people still make that mistake that you can just do that whenever. But yeah, this was your main target and still the main target with Tribute Lanius. And I'm going to say this, with the release of Link Summoning and the ability to also go into Wise Tricks, this card became significantly better, Mimicry Lanius, because you can just link it off and just get the effect regardless. So it's also just became just an okay normal summon with the deck, and I recommend to run this one at 3. Next up, we'll move on to one of the most simplest effects as well, and that is Raidraptor Singing Lanius, which is just a free special summon if you control an Xyz monster. That's it. Mostly you just search it with 4 tricks and get it to your hand, and then free special summon. Cool. Then after that we have Raidraptor Painlenius, which pretty much target another Raidraptor monster. You're taking an effect equal to its attack or defense, or should I say damage equal to its attack or defense, and equal the lowest one, and you get to special summon it, and it's become the level as that monster. It's a really good and easy special summon with a very interesting payment of life points, but still a very, very nice card. Most of the time you're just going to take like 400 or so, but there's sometimes in cases that you have to take something like around 1300, 1900 because, you know, of reasons. But mostly just a pretty easy and nice special summon. So now let's move on to the good cards in the extra deck, and you will start off with Raidraptor Y Strix, which is pretty much a card that's fixed a lot of the archetype's issues. When it link summoned, it allows you to get a level 4 Dark Winged Beast directly from your deck, which is also make this card good in Black Wings. However, it's also have a nice, really good effect for its own archetype, and that is pretty much setting a rank up spell directly from the deck if you activate the effect of a Raidraptor Xyz monster, and most of the time that will be Raidraptor 4 Strix, and then you link this and the 4 Strix into the Samorg link, and then the one that you set with the rank up will be Soul Shave Force, which then allow you to summon Infinity. And also get Bird of Severity or whatever that's called, the link 3-1. Regardless, it's really good. Speaking of 4 Strix is your main rank 4 of the archetype, and it just pretty much just a search for a Dark Winged level 4. Dark Winged Beast level 4. That's what it does. Nothing more to say about that, just a really good search effect. Now we'll move on to the big boys, which will have 3 of them, which are the, you know, big beefy falcons. And the first one that I want to talk about is Raidraptor Revolution Falcon, which this one is up to this very day one of the most easiest to summon / biggest OTK tools of the archetype. By itself, it just pretty much can attack all special summon monsters your opponent control by detaching an Xyz material, and any monsters that its attack or being attacked by, just getting its attack permanently and defense to 0, which is absolutely stupid. And secondly, it can also just pretty much, if it has an Xyz material, can just, you know, pop a monster and let your opponent take half of its damage if it's destroyed. Casually like that. Pretty awesome, pretty straightforward. A little bit hard on the words, but it's a very, very good OTK tool. Next up we have Raidraptor Satellite Falcon, or Satellite Cannon Falcon. Satellite Cannon Falcon is pretty much Harpy Feather Duster on summon if you use the Raidraptor Xyz as a material, so, you know, the rank up thing. It's also allow you to target a monster your opponent control as a quick effect, and the only Raidraptor Xyz monster as a quick effect, and pretty much reduces attack by 800 for each Raidraptor you control, or in the graveyard, or I think just in the graveyard. Regardless, it can just drop a monster just by a lot. So your opponent trying to attack with his Boral Sword, no thank you, it's going to be 0 until the end of the turn, and you cannot do anything about that. Pretty much that's what he does. So yeah, pretty nice monster to just have as a one-off in your exo deck. Lastly, for the good Xyz, we have Raidraptor Ultimate Falcon. Ultimate Falcon is just untargetable, unaffected on anything. The only way you can get rid of him is the monsters that is bigger or a kaiju. And he just burn your opponents and, you know, during the end phase, or burn them during the main phase and just make his monsters lose 1,000 attack or whatever. It's depending on the situation. If they have a monster, it's going to lose 1,000 attack. If they're not going to have anything, they're just going to get burned. It's just pretty stupid. Nothing really crazy about him, but the fact that it's unaffected by anything is just absolutely awesome. But that's it for the good Xyz monsters, because, let's be honest, most of them are just either hard to summon or, you know, not the most useful, which we'll get to that when we'll get to the OK cards. As for the Raidraptor spells and traps, well, technically we only have spells in the good department from the old support, and that will start off with the first one, which is Raidraptor Nest. Raidraptor Nest is pretty much a search or an add from the graveyard to the hand a Raidraptor monster if you have 2 other Raidraptor monsters on the field, which is cool and all, and I love the idea of this, which is like, you know, 2 raptors leave a baby or an egg. Cool, but not really the most practical one. That's why you mostly play only one of this. It just kind of like, how should I say this? Dark Contract with a Swamp King, but a little bit better because you don't really care of drawing it, and you can just also bounce it with Zephrys the Elite, but I would say this, it's not really the best spell in the world, but you still play one off just because, and now it became a little bit better. Regardless, there's not really any other Raidraptor spells that are good, only 2 rank ups, and we'll start off with the more related for Raidraptors, and that is Skip Force. Skip Force is a really cool one. It just 2 ranks up. It's just your Astral Force for Raidraptors. And, well, if it's in the graveyard, except the turn to ascend there, you get to banish it in a Raidraptor monster from your graveyard, and then revive an Xyz Raidraptor monster from your graveyard. Which is really nice. It's just a nice monster reborn. Pretty straightforward, pretty awesome. You're playing at least one of it in your deck because it's just really, really helpful to go to your higher Raidraptor monsters. As for the last spell, it's Shoshay Force, the one that I mentioned earlier. You pay half your life points, you're getting an Infinity, or something like that, because you target a Raidraptor, Xyz in your graveyard, mostly 4 Strix, and then you're going to get one with 2 ranks higher, which is mostly, if you're going first, is going to be Infinity. Straightforward, and pretty much what it does. And that's it for the good cards. Unfortunately, there are not really a whole lot of good cards, because Raidraptors is old archetype, kind of, and it's from the Arc V anime when they're decided to, you know, throw willy-nilly support. They'll still do, but you know what I mean. It's like, really throw willy-nilly support out of the blue. That doesn't really help anything. But you still have some good cards which are only good for the OTK, which I don't really pretty much, like, agree with them, because some of them are just really bad. And let's start off with the first one from the left to right bottom, from top left to right bottom, and the first one is Raidraptor Phazilanius. Phazilanius is nice, but the problem with this card is just locking you into the archetype for the rest of the turn. The other card I think is just really good from this list, as I'm showing on screen, is Raidraptor's Nest, which is also, or should I say not Nest, Call. Also the same idea, but it's good, but it's locking you for the archetype as well for the turn. Not for the rest of the turn, for the turn. For Final Fortress, it just, how should I say this? Oh yeah, it's a big boy, it's nice to summon, but it's, how should I say this? Again, it's just too hard to summon. It's really cool, it's a very nice OTK tool, but it's very hard to summon, it's like doesn't really worth it in the archetype and with the new support, which also leading us for Lastrix, which is just not really that good anymore, because you don't really want to waste your normal summon and just like getting a big beefy boy. Don't get me wrong, like, you know, normal summoning, tributed, then getting, like, if you have a rank up in your hand, it's pretty nice, but it's really unreliable and just making you running like something like 7 to 8 rank ups just to get one in your hand. Or how you can do that to also like get like Vanishing Lanius, Lastrix, and another extender to just also getting Y-Strix, and then you also need to rank. It's just really a lot of work to work with this, or very, very, very luck-based for that one. For the rest of the cards, which are the rank 4s or whatever, and rank 5s, their effects are very unreliable or just very, very hard to pull off to summon them. And the 2 traps, Gust is just not searchable, and Readiness is just, its time was expended. And that's pretty much does it for the okay cards. I mean, they're okay, you can still use them, but they're just not really that good anymore, at least in my recommendation. As for the OCG support, well, technically we have 6 cards from Phantom Rage. We also have additional 2 Raidraptor Xyz monsters that we're missing, and I'm going to go through them as well, and I'm going to go in the same lineup that I did the good support. So let's go through Raider's Wing first. And Raider's Wing is a very interesting one. It's pretty much a puzzle ship, and Raiders from Time Thief combine in a special summoning effect by detaching an Xyz material from an Xyz monster. It can be in your hand or graveyard and then special summon itself. It's also giving your monster protection from some particular, you know, effects. But one thing should be mentioned, even though it counts as a Raidraptor card in Phantom Knight everywhere, if it's special summoned by, you know, by effect negated, it doesn't count as that anymore. At least I believe that's the way ADO Pro works. Not sure if it's still a bug, but I think in terms of rolling, it just doesn't count permanently. So do keep that in mind when you use this card and prevent yourself a lot of tears. Next up we have Eagle, which is the new level 3. You mostly don't really use him for Xyz, you just use him for being a free special summon if you control Raidraptor monsters only. just like any other good special summoner. It's also have another benefit in the graveyard when you can banish it and just add a spell trap for Raidraptors that are in your graveyard to your hand. So that's why I mentioned the Teamndl effect to send Raidraptor spells and traps and not only monsters could be beneficial, because sometimes you have full combo and this can just search for you the counter trap or can search for you nest if is necessary. And that's muchly its application. Lastly, for the new main deck monsters, we have Strangleanius, which Strangleanius is a free special summon, but lock you into dark monsters for the rest of the turn if you special summon him. It's could be a little bit of an issue, but even with that, you can just play around it, and sometimes your combos do involve you only to go into dark Xyz monsters or Link monsters, so it's not really the biggest of issue. However, it also have another benefit, that if you have an Xyz monster with an Xyz monster as a material, you pretty much get to special summon another Raidraptor from your graveyard, which is level 4 or lower, which is pretty awesome, by the way. So you get another Xyz on top of that, which can be any Dark Xyz that you can think of. That is very, very nice. And I very, very like this card a lot. Some of the monsters here are debatable in ratios, but I like all of them quite a bit. They're really nice. As for the Xyz, we only have 2 Xyz, which are the ones from the OCG. First off, we have Air Raid, which is a version of Revolution Falcon effect of destroying a monster by detaching a material, but having it as an effect when it's summoned. And it can be summoned with any rank up, so meaning, like, for example, you open up with Soul Shave Force and didn't really have the best of hand, you can still summon him really easily by discarding that and that targeting your 4 Strix and making it into Air Raid. Also, when it's sent to the graveyard, you're getting the Revolution Falcon with it as a material, which is pretty nice, and I like it really much so. It's just giving you the ability to just have another monster even when he dies. It's mostly just a one-off, but a very useful one-off to just sometimes seal games. And the last Xyz monster is Raidraptor Arsenal Falcon. Arsenal Falcon is an interesting one because it's a rank 7, and that could be an issue, but it has a very powerful effect of summoning a Raidraptor level 4 directly from your deck, with effect negated, but still, it summons a Raidraptor directly from your deck. It's also have another effect when it's sent to the graveyard. You can pretty much summon another Raidraptor Xyz monster and just attach to it as an Xyz material. I'm still looking for a way to exploit this card to just let you in the combo also summon an Ultimate Falcon or something like that, or a Final Fortress. But for the time being, I just don't really play around with this card because of its levels restriction being a little bit hard to use. However, the following spell, Raidraptors, or should I say the Phantom Knight spell, I don't know why I said Raidraptors, but it also worked with Raidraptors. The new Phantom Knight rank up spell is just really good with this one, which allows you to banish dark monsters from your graveyard to summon a Raidraptor, Xyz Dragon, or Phantom Knight monster up ranks from the numbers that you banished, and you target your said respectful monsters. It's a little bit harder to explain because it's like, its text is a little bit weird, but mostly it just led you to summon, in this archetype, just an archetype, like, you know, Raidraptor Xyz monster higher. And that's pretty much what it does here. It's allowing you to target, like, for example, a 4 Strix, banish 2 Raidraptors from your graveyard, and then just make it into a Revolution Falcon. You can banish 3 and make an arsenal, like I mentioned earlier, but this is something that still requires play testing. And that's it for the spells. Only 1 new spells for both of the archetypes. Gotta say, even Phantom Knights only got this one. But as for the traps, well, the first one I'm going to mention, which is Raider's Unbreakable Mind, I'm not even going to mention its effect because it's trash. The second one, however, Raidraptor's Phantom Knight's Claw, is absolutely amazing. It's a monster negation that is searchable, that allow you to use it by detaching an Xyz material from an Xyz monster, which is not really that hard. And if you detach an Xyz monster that was Xyz material for an Xyz monster, god, this is really confusing, you're getting to also target one of your Raidraptor monsters and pretty much gain attack equal to the monster that you pretty much negates the effects. That's what it does. And it's really nice, really straightforward, and a very, very needed interruption. While I do think it also should negate its spells and traps, I think the reason for that is because they think that people still are going to play Gust, but Gust is unsearchable, so it's not really that great. But yeah, that's it for the OCG support as well. Very, very bunch of nice cards, really helped the archetype a bit, and I'm pretty sure you're going to see what I'm going to mean to when we're going to jump right into the deck profile, which we're going to do right now. As for the deck itself, let's go through it really quickly because there are really no reason to just delay this that much. First off, we start off with 3 copies of Tribute Lanius. We explained this, it's the Foolish Burial. 3 copies of Vanishing Lanius, which is your special summon from hand, like I said. 3 copies of Mimicry Lanius, which is kind of your searcher of the deck, which is pretty much its sole purpose. And because of Link Summoning, the way to get to the search is a little bit easier, which I forgot to mention, so that's why this card is actually quite better. 3 copies of Pain, because Pain is the free special summon from hand. You want to target only your level 4s, I'm going to say that in advance again. 1 copy of Singing, because Singing is a free special summon, but you only need the 1, because it's searchable with 4 Strix. 3 copies of Strangle, because it's really good for ending board with. 3 copies of Heal, because it's a free special summon and you don't really care about it being level 3. Trust me. And then 1 copy of Raider's Wing, because Raider's Wing is just another free special summon, but it's, again, it can be searchable with your 4 Strix. Now, one thing I should mention, I do run the Samorg Link here, but I don't run Apex Avian. I have another one instead of it, which is taking its place. And we have Samorg of Darkness, which is my choice instead of, Apex Avian. Because you cannot use Apex Avian if you use Strangle Lanius effect. But you can summon Samorg of Darkness. While it is a level higher and its negate is a little bit worse, it's tribute a winged beast to negate a spell and trap, it's still a negate, and it's still an interruption, so you can use this to summon from your deck. And the last monster is Zephrys the Elite, because it's a winged beast, level 4, dark. It's really good. Then for the hand traps, 3 Ash, 2 Crow. It could be Nibiru if you want to, I just decided to go with Crow for this one. 1 copy of Nest for the first of your spells, because I explained you only need the 1, it's just really good a hard draw if you need to. Sometimes you search to it to thin up your decks with Mimicry, but not all the time. 1 copy of Soul Shave Force, because it's just a really good rank up spell. 2 copies of the new Phantom Knight's Force, because I'm playtesting with this one, so that I decided to run that too. I'm considering maybe to run it at 1, then run 2 of these, which is Skip Force, because Skip Force sometimes is better, but it's depending on the situation. And lastly, before Cold by the Grave, we're running 1 copy of Foolish Burial, because it's a little bit more live now. You can send things like Raider's Wings and Zephrys the Elite and just use them. It's just pretty good. Lastly, Cold by the Grave, and then for the traps, 2 copies of Shade Brigadine. Shade Brigadine is just a free special summon level 4 and could work up with a specific monster in the extra deck, but mostly what you care about is just another extender that you can have as a trap, so to speak. Then 2 copies of Phantom Knight's Claw. You could have or Raidraptor's Phantom Knight's Claw. You could have this card as being hard draw as well, so sometimes you do want the second copy. You could run this at 1, but I want to sometimes hard draw it, because sometimes I cannot search it with Mimicry because I have few problems in the, plays. Now we'll move on to the extra deck. So first off, let's start with the Raidraptor stuff. We'll start off with 3 copies of 4 Strix. It's search for you things. It's pretty straightforward. 1 copy of Air Raid, because it's just an easy to summon. Like I said, it's just pretty good. 1 copy of Revolution. 1 copy of Satellite, and 1 copy of Ultimate. I explained these. They're just really good for your arsenal of monsters. Then 2 copies of Y-Strix. Y-Strix is absolutely amazing. It's not a free of, but it's still a really good card. 1 copy of Samorg Link, because like I said, you could still make the combo, but instead of making, bringing Apex Avian, you bring out Samorg of Darkness, which you do need to play with the spell traps a little bit better, but you know what I mean. You can just summon Samorg of Darkness at the end of the combo, which I'll also show you during the end. And then for the rest of the extra deck monsters, we have Evil Swarm Nightmare, which is serve as one of your interruptions of a level 4. 1 copy of Time Thief Redoer, which is sometimes I'm not really sure about this one, but is really good with the Shade Brigadine. 1 copy of Dark Rebellion, which is another way to help you OTK if you need to, but if you lock all yourself only into Darks or whatever, you can also use the rank up spell to bring out a Dark Requiem Xyz Dragon, so that can also be an option. Then the last monster is Cyber Dragon Infinity, which is bring out by Soul Shave Force, which you're going to see in the combo right now. But that pretty much does it for the deck. Let's jump right into the combo. Alright, so let's go over the combo. Now for the combo itself, you could open up really badly in your hand. I'm just going to say that in advance, and that's what kind of happened to me. I open up with Raidraptor Strangle Lanius, Raidraptor Vanishing Lanius, and Raidraptor Heal Eagle. I would say this, you end up with 3 or 4 interruptions depending on your hand, because sometimes you can get the counter traps, sometimes you can't, but the point is, this is a combo that you need one good normal summon, one good special summon, and then another kind of like extender, or open up hard draw with the counter trap in your hand in a way to search for your other extender, so either Tribute Lanius or Mimicry Lanius. It's one of these two. But for this particular combo, let's get started. So to start things off, we're normal summoning Vanishing Lanius, special summoning the Heal Eagle, and because we don't want to lock ourselves for Strangle Lanius, we use immediately the effect of Vanishing Lanius to summon the Strangle Lanius, so we're not locked into only Darks. We then use the effect of Wise Trick to summon up the Mimicry Lanius to get the additional search that we need, and then we're using those two to make 4 Strix. 4 Strix will then detach the Mimicry Lanius, adding to us the Raider's Wing, and then we're going to use the Raiders to set the Soul Shave first, and then use Raider's Wings effect to pretty much special summon itself, but detaching the Strangle Lanius. Then you're going to make the Simorgh Link, and activate your rank up spell by paying half of your life points, targeting what is his name again? God, 4 Strix to summon an Infinity. Then you're going to use Mimicry effect to search Strangle Lanius again, because again, like I said, this one is a part when, like, you know, you weren't able to open up correctly, and that's why you don't get the counter trap. But if you get anything else instead of Strangle Lanius, like for example, what is his name? Tribute Lanius, for example, this combo would have been a little bit better. But because you didn't, you have to search Strangle Lanius manually and give up on your counter trap, which is a little bit of a shame, but sometimes happens. Then you use Strangle Lanius effect because you have an Xyz monster with an Xyz monster to it as a material, and then you summon Vanishing Lanius back. Use these two to make your 4 Strix, detaching a material to search the Singing Lanius. Use Singing Lanius effect to special summon, and then you make your Evil Swarm Nightmare. And lastly, you're going to use Simorgh effect to summon Simorgh of Darkness, which is pretty much a very, very good end board. As I said, it's depending, obviously, on your, hand. If you open up a little bit differently, you could have gotten maybe the counter trap. But yeah, that pretty much does it for the combo, and does it for the entire guide. So I'm hoping you enjoy. Overall, Raidraptors received a very good support in Phantom Rage, and I think they're just will become a little bit more powerful. While I don't think they will become a meta deck, so to speak, they're still a lot more powerful than they used to be, which is very, very much appreciated, and something that we need to see for a long time. There are also additional things that I like about Phantom Rage, but the only way that Phantom Rage can become better is if they will have Vendred support in it as well, which will make the set obviously my favorite set of all time. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Hope you enjoy. Don't forget to like and subscribe again to the video if you haven't already. Just going to remind you there. And remember, creativity is the key in this game. Have a good day, stay safe, and let me know what kind of archetype you maybe want to see next. And when I'll have the time, I will cover that up next. See you next time.